The disagreement among scholars regarding the dating of the Apocalypse and its authorship points to much deeper problems of chronology. The problem is not just the lack of agreement and reliability of the traditional sources, nor is it the fact that the book itself has no concrete historical references to allow for assigning a date. We must ask the question again: why is the dating of the revelation of John a subject of scholarly debate? Even without reliable first-hand witnesses or internal evidence, the book should be easy to date. After all, there are the documents themselves, the codices, papyri, and others. Can't these be reliably dated? Is there an original? Or are there early copies of the book that can be dated to everyone's satisfaction? Of course, if the documents could be reliably dated, then the question of the dating of the Apocalypse itself would be resolved. The fact that the experts don't agree with each other should tell us that the documents haven't settled the ongoing debate. So, what about the documents? We noted earlier that there are approximately 230 Greek manuscripts of Revelation, along with numerous papyri and other documents. The primary manuscripts of the New Testament, including the Book of Revelation, are the codices Sinaiticus, Alexandrinus, and Ephraemi Rescriptus. All three of these manuscripts are dated centuries after the alleged date of the composition of the Revelation by John. John, it is claimed, wrote his book in the 1st century A.D. The Codex Sinaiticus is dated to the 4th century. The Codex Alexandrinus to the 5th century, as is the Codex Ephraemi Rescriptus. In other words, the earliest extant manuscript copy of John's Revelation dates to approximately 300 years after the vision was supposed to have been written down. This begs the question: what happened to the original records? The answer is that every single original manuscript of the New Testament, called an autograph, has been lost. We do not have an autograph of the Book of Revelation. All we have are copies and copies of copies. The fact that we don't have originals begs some obvious questions. How do we know when the originals were written? And how were the copies dated? In order to answer these questions, we must first take a closer look at each of the three primary codices of the New Testament. We start with the Codex Sinaiticus, considered the earliest manuscript of the New Testament. The Codex Sinaiticus has been dated, that is, has been assigned a date by scholars, to the 4th century A.D. But the dating of the Codex is an artifact of scholarly conjecture and not one of verifiable fact. The Codex, as is the norm, has no publishing date or place and no name of the copyist. Without this type of information, its age must be guessed at through analysis of the text and the physical specimen itself. This is the case with all the codices. In the case of the Codex Sinaiticus, as with the other two, the age of the codex was determined through the science of paleography, the study of historical handwriting, which we will address later in the series. Yet, as we shall see, this cannot be the case. We believe a more reliable form of chronological dating is chain of custody. Chain of custody is the chronological documentation of the custody, control, transfer, and disposition of physical artifacts. It is a well-respected concept in criminal law. Chain of custody is also important in establishing the chronology and authenticity of a historical object. Scholars call it provenance. Establishing an accurate provenance is essential, since the forging of antiquities is a big business and has been for centuries. The donation of Constantine, a Roman imperial decree transferring authority over the Western Roman Empire to the Pope, is but one well-known forgery. In the case of the Codex Sinaiticus, this will be especially important, since the Codex has been claimed to be a forgery. The methodology of chain of custody is primarily one of documentation. Other techniques may be helpful, but without verifiable documentation, they are meaningless.